Hey friends! So I was trying to think of some stuff that I'd like to show you guys, just like more stuff from my artistic practice or anything else that I could think of that maybe would be interesting. And I pulled out all of these books. So I worked as a book designer, like a freelance book designer, before I started my art business. Basically, I did my master's in English literature, and then I was doing my PhD and I dropped out of that. But the master's degree, we covered some publishing things and about the publishing industry. So I enjoyed that a lot. And then when I started working for myself and improving my graphic design skills, it was kind of a natural thing that I started designing books. So I started designing them for myself. As I made another video before, I did some like low content journals and some books. Some of these are in that pile here. And I enjoyed that. I didn't do too many, but you know, I also have always had a passion for writing, so I self-published a handful of books. And then I also did a handful, more than a handful. I did several books for clients, but the thing, so I don't have a lot of client books. I think I only have one in this pile to show you. I just want to show you some of my favorite things I've designed or things I think are interesting. So the reason that I didn't include a lot of client work here is because generally, because I was working freelance, the people who were hiring me were self-publishing authors. And I'm a self-publishing author too, so I'm totally cool with that. But I find that most people who are self-publishing have a very clear vision of what they want. And while they are willing to accept my suggestions, oftentimes they would come to me with stock photos they already wanted to use for their covers, or like a very clear like first attempt that they made in Canva, or a sketch or something. Like they had a vision of what they wanted the cover to look like. And so I didn't really get to use my creativity or my expertise, I guess, in terms of advising what would be suitable for their genre or anything like that. So I don't feel like a lot of my client work is the best representative of my skills or my interests, because often it's not like if I was working for a publishing house, I think there would be like more, I don't know, group consensus about the direction to go with the styling for a book. Whereas when it's just one person, it's kind of just whatever they want, which I'm fine with. Like, that's cool. So that's just why these are mostly my books, and they're different points in my book designing experience. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun to show you. And I've got my overhead. Actually, this is my phone, but I put my camera. Can you see? Yeah, it's in this frame. I put it up here so that I could film overhead as well. But I see that I've put it up in portrait mode. So I guess we're just gonna have, maybe I'll do a split screen. I think that actually is probably gonna be fine. So yeah, let me turn this on to film myself, and then let's get looking through this pile. I hope that's interesting for you. I think it may be fun. Okay, so context, these books. A lot of these are self-published and printed through Amazon KDP. I think most of the paperbacks are. I also have two books here done by Blurb. I think it's Blurb. Including the hardcover. So those are the printers I used for these, and I have different opinions about them, but anyways, that's just my experience. So I just want to show you the first one. This is the first book I've really designed, and this was actually just a paperback version of my thesis that I wrote for my first master's, which was in classical studies. So I used this just as an excuse to like learn how to self-publish. And so first of all, let's just talk about the cover. So very simple cover design. It's just a painting that is in public domain. So it's just a painting. I think this is Circe, but is it by Waterhouse? I usually use a lot of Waterhouse paintings. Do I even write that? No, I didn't even include it, but it's probably Circe. And I just did like a transparent box and then put the text on it. It's not very fancy or anything. On the spine, I just did a sliver of the front illustration, which actually I think is a very nice design. I like the way I did the spine. The back cover is just a contrasting color, which actually is a technique that I will do a lot if I'm designing something with a stock photo for the cover. Like when I had a client be like, I want this stock photo, and it was a portrait orientation, because then there's nothing I can really do. Like I can't, I guess I could with AI now, but I can't like make the picture wider to go wrap around the back. So I would do like front cover, contrasting color, spine with the sliver of the photo, and then do text on the back cover. So this was just like, I printed this out with Blurb. I don't think it's available to buy anywhere. You probably don't want to read it. It's Necromancy in Apuleius' Metamorphoses. That was my thesis. So I read a lot of Egyptian necromancy books. So it's just got some stuff inside. In terms of the interior design, like it's pretty crowded. I think I was just using a template to build this. But what I really dislike is like the way that this looks. The margins are really skinny. The spacing, it's like double spaced almost. It's maybe 1.5 spaced. The font is too big. And it's just, yeah. So it's not like great. I think there's some sections that are a little bit smaller, but anyways, but this is still my first one I did. And I'm really proud of it. I'm also really proud of this paper I wrote. So this whole thing was my master's thesis. So there's references in the back. So that was my first book I ever designed. Next, I got into my low content publishing. These are two, yeah, we'll just look at those two. So these are two that I designed that did pretty well. These are both were my early versions, so you can see they have the not for resale little thing on them. So this is actually the first one I did, my houseplant journal, which as I mentioned in another video I did, it did really well. Like this was like my bestseller and paid my rent for a long time. So that was quite nice. It's just a very simple design. I designed all of this in Canva and I drew the front cover on Procreate, just when I was first learning how to use Procreate. So you can see it's just really simple, like block shape or like solid color flowers and stuff, or plants. There's a quote on the back. Overall, I think this is a fairly okay design. Like it's something that I feel like I would see this book like on a shelf in any store and it would be kind of unremarkable, but you would expect it to be there. Like that's like the level of design. Like if this wasn't, I don't know, it was almost like I would see it at a Target or like a Walmart, just in their like notebook section. Like it's designed fine, but it's nothing like prestige. I still am very proud of it because it was a big turning point in me in terms of learning how to do layouts and just learning about books. And then I did the tarot card journal, which is a more beautiful illustration in my opinion. Just I took more time with it. I had more elements incorporated. I like the font and stuff, and I did the back cover as well. Just so that you can kind of see my illustration skills improving a little bit. I'm not really so much into tarot anymore, but at the time this was a big interest of mine. And this book was designed again in Canva, but it was like to fill in to make your own guide to reading cards. So that was the idea behind it. And I think it turned out cute. There's actually a store, I don't know where, but I can just see from my analytics, I think a store in California who stocks this and they buy it wholesale off of Amazon's bookstore wholesale program to stock. So somewhere this book is actually in stock somewhere. And I do really like it. I'm very fond of it. I still think the cover is very pretty. So after my journal phase, I kind of was into short stories. And I had actually written this short story a long time ago, maybe like 2015 or something, but I republished it as The Night Wheel, and it's just a very skinny little book, but I think the cover is really pretty. And it's just a little novella. So this is the interior layout, which I think looks really nice. I really like the cream colored pages. The font I choose is pretty. It's not Baskerville, but it's something similar. And I think the spacing, the margins, I really like this one. I think it turned out really nice. And I did some little illustration for like composite image illustrations for inside. So yeah, this was just a myth retelling was the story here. And I think it's pretty. And also I got this really beautiful review back when I self-published this under a pen name. I've since reinstated it under my name, but the review included the pen name, so I just swapped it for mine and put it on the cover. I've also done a couple other short books that are kind of the same size. I like this little, I think this is a 5x8. And again, these ones were all printed on Amazon. These are just some books I wrote a little bit earlier in my online career when I was having some success with things like passive income and digital products, and people were asking me for advice a lot. And I didn't really have a cohesive way to share my advice, so I wrote these little books. And I think they're still really relevant and interesting, but really different design philosophies on these ones. So this one came first. I just think this cover is really cute. I think this is a good example of like a nonfiction cover design where it's kind of a little bit corporate, but also really fun. I drew all these elements on top of the laptop with my iPad on Procreate, I believe. And the back is cute too. So this is sort of my same philosophy of just extending the color to the back cover. I would say that this back cover is a little busy, but it's fine. The interior design is fine. I believe I designed this using Atticus on the inside because book interiors are really time consuming, and I find that actually for most cases like this, using a software like Atticus or Vellum that auto formats your book interiors can work out. So I think this looks pretty good. This font is a good size. It's a little bit generic looking with like the way the heading is set, but it's fine. Like people aren't probably going to care that much about that. It's just me being nitpicky. And this one is a little bit bigger, but it's just more broad. This one's just about like digital products and Etsy. This one is more about the philosophy of creative work. Anyway, same thing. I designed the interior with Atticus, which I still really like. I like Atticus a lot. And the cover, I think I was going for like a more mainstream sort of style. I think this is a design style that was very popular around like 2019, but still is very cute. I'm not trying to disparage it, but I just think that's sort of where the trend is with the shape and the colors and overall the motif. I think the back looks better on this one. It's a little bit more artsy, a little bit more designed, less text and more cohesive. So yeah, so I like these two little books. I think they're both good and interesting. I'm proud of them. What else do I have? I formatted another one of my theses. This one's my English thesis. This one's called The Ancient Frankenstein, Reading Mary Shelley's famous novel through a classical lens. I don't think that was what the actual name of my master's thesis was called. But I really liked this cover because I was really, I'm very passionate about this subject. You don't really write a thesis about something you don't care about. So I was really into Frankenstein and the correlations to Greek hospitality culture in mythology. It was based off of what Mary Shelley would have read during her education, and she kept reading lists of what she did read, so it was very specific to say okay, she read these 10 books that I think are relevant, and I think themes from those were pulled in here. Anyway, that was kind of the idea. So this sort of design I made was really evocative of kind of the philosophy of my paper. I liked the textured background. It kind of looked like a little parchment. These are the Alps, which is where the Frankenstein takes place. The classical statue kind of looking glaringly at the hand extended, and the gesture of the hand was an important motif. The back is pretty. I think this looks nice, nice and cohesive. Just a synopsis of my paper. And then I think this inside looks really good. How did I design this? I think I did this one in Adobe Publisher. Wait, is it Publisher? This is how long it's been since I've done anything with Adobe. The one that you do book design in. I think it looks really nice. I like this little motif at the beginning of each chapter. Font, margins, I think it looks really beautiful. Overall, really proud of that. Look how nice this looks. I should reread this. I really do forget a lot of what the work was that I did. Okay, that was that one. I'll save my favorite two for last. This one is the only one that was for a client that I wanted to show you. It is Sable Island Stories, Volume 1. So Sable Island is an island off the coast of Nova Scotia, if you've never heard of it. There are wild horses there. It's one of the things it's popular for. It's also a place where there's a lot of shipwrecks, especially in the 1800s and 1900s. Anyways, there's the Friends of Sable Island Society hired me one summer or 2 summers, maybe just one. No, I worked with them a couple times doing archival transcription. That was a summer job I had when I was in university, but afterwards I worked with them on other stuff. So basically I formatted this book for them, and it's full of stories and different things written by different people, and I actually wrote a chapter in it as well. So for the cover, I think this is really cute. I think it's a nice beachy theme. These are just some stock images or images we licensed. It was difficult I find that the genre of historical books or geographic-centric books, books about places, I find can be very difficult to do an interesting cover of if you don't just have that one prize-winning photo. And I didn't really have one that fit the dimensions of the book cover. So if you look at this here, this is, maybe it wasn't, I don't know if this is a portrait orientation one, but I didn't put it on the back. And I didn't really provide a lot of the text. I don't believe I didn't write the text in the back cover or anything. I just formatted it. So that's why it's a little bit more wordy than maybe I would have done, but still think it's cute. And the spine is pretty cute. I liked this cutout effect. I believe I saw this on another book in a different genre where they had done like a photo that cut out all the letters. But I think it's high contrast and cute. Yeah, the inside, I did design this in Adobe and whatever software it is that I'm forgetting. And I like the interior design. It's got white pages, which is not really my favorite. I prefer cream, but it still looks really nice. It's a collection of short stories and poems and nonfiction, and there's like a mix of things. There's some art in it. The thing that the thing that I was a little bit on the fence about it is just the size of the font. I think it's size 12, and I would normally do 10 or 11 is my preference. I know this sounds like minutia, but it really does matter when you see it printed out. But the group was happier with the bigger size because a lot of their members and people who are reading prefer large print books, which is totally cool, so I'm happy to accommodate for that. So that's why it's just a little bit bigger than I would normally do for a book. So this is just one that I did for clients that I really liked. I think that was cute. The last two, I'll show you this one first. This is related to Sable Island as well. This is my biggest published book. I'm very proud of this one. If someone said like, oh, show me a book you published, I would show them this one. This book was the story of Joseph Darby, who was a superintendent on Sable Island, the island from this book, that I spent a summer transcribing his journals from when he was working on the island, and then the organization encouraged me to write a book about him based on my research. So I did. And this book I actually got a publishing deal with for a traditional publisher, but after about 2 years, or maybe a year and a half, I wasn't really happy with the process, so I did cancel that contract, but I ended up self-publishing it. And I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I didn't have to make the changes that were requested, so I think it's good. So I won't go over too much what the book's about, because this is just more of a video about the design work, but it is sort of a non-fiction historical biography is the genre, about a very controversial sea captain is the point. So this is a book that actually I did the cover for, and then I had a friend of mine edit it, and also I hired him to do the interior design because I was just a little swamped with work at the time, and he did a beautiful job. So only the cover on this one is my design work. Full credit to my friend Alex. He isn't doing editing or design anymore. He's actually changed careers to do something else now, so I don't have a thing to plug for him, but he was fantastic when he was doing it. So I did this illustration. I struggled a lot with how to design this cover. Obviously because it's mine and I'm nitpicky, but also like, how do you do, like I didn't have any photographs to work off of. I could get some licensed images of Sable Island, but obviously they're modern, and this is it's not a dark story, but it's got like a lot of controversy. There's some legal stuff, there's like some spooky stories, like it's an interesting book. So I didn't want it to have my usual style, which is generally lighter, cuter kind of style. So I did this illustration that is basically all these waves kind of encircling the cover, and there's in the distance there's a little ship and the spit of land that is Sable Island. So I think it's kind of abstract and cute. I really like the lettering. I don't remember the name of that font, but I purchased it just for this cover. And I think it really suits the tone. It's a little bit vintage. Kind of reminds me of the font, like stamped on the side of a barrel. Like there's a lot of sea and shipping and stuff in this. Anyways, yeah, I credited myself as the author of The Ancient Frankenstein, which was the version of my thesis I made. That's the spine, same font, and because I illustrated it, you can see that the continuity of the cover, hopefully that's getting all in one shot. It's just one image that runs, or rather they're complementary images for the front and back. So that made me able to do this interesting back design with sort of this dark starry sky, some waves, and yeah, I think this is really beautiful. I'm really proud of this cover design. I'll show off Alex's interior design because it's really nice. Oh, this one was printed by Ingram Spark. Okay, so I wrote that in the inside. So that's where this was printed by. So there are some differences between the KDP printing and Ingram Spark printing, but they're pretty minute. I think mainly it was the colors and the cover. The vibrancy was a little bit better on the Ingram Spark one, if I recall correctly. So there's the cover, or the inside page. We used, I don't remember the fonts, but we got this graphic pack of nautical embellishments to use. I just think it's really beautiful. Love the fonts. We included these maps that I got licensed from the provincial archives. So I cut it up into little bits so that people could see it, like Stark Otter Hollow. This is the map that Joseph Darby drew himself. So here is the front introduction. So beautiful anchor. I just think the formatting is gorgeous. It's got the cream pages, which I love. And this introduction is just for me in the first person. It's just explaining why I cared about Darby's story, how I came about it, etc. And then we do the book, and it includes a lot of letters and things like transcribed. So yeah, and here's his signature. This is his father's signature, and that was his. That was important because they were named the same thing, so I had to distinguish who was who, and they both had the same job. So that was fun to navigate. Anyways, so this is the one, like I said, I'll really claim this as like my book when people ask me what I published. Really proud of it. Last one I want to show you is just something really cute and fun, which is this copy of Pride and Prejudice that I designed for my mom as a Christmas present. It is a hardcover book. It is the only hardcover in my collection, I believe. I have done hardcover versions of other things, but I don't usually keep them. I'm just looking at my bookshelf where the things I've made are. I think this is the only hardcover I have. Because generally I don't like hardcovers. Except for like, I don't know, as like a thing to keep, not a thing to read. I hate reading a hardcover. I digress. I designed this because my mom and I love Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice, and I thought this was a fun gift. So there's a lot of things in this design that are nods to my mom, and this is not a book that's available anywhere. I think there's only 3 copies in existence. 1 that is hers and 2 that are mine, because I had backups in case something happened. So I'll just talk you through the design a little bit. This is a jacket, so the cover is just plain underneath. It's just a linen wrap in gray. This jacket illustration. So I used a lot of William Morris textiles in this design. There's 1, 2, 3 on the cover. My mom's a big fan of William Morris. He was a pattern designer of the arts and crafts movement? I can't remember, but British designer. So I used the William Morris designs a lot. I used one in the spine, the bamboo design, and on the back is the same from the cover. I did some illustrations on here that are meant to be the different houses. So this is supposed to be Pemberley and this is supposed to be Longbourn. And I designed it kind of to look like one was living in the shadow of the other, which I think is kind of fun. And then we had the woman's silhouette in the background, which I think actually the hairstyle is more of like a Gibson girl style, which is not technically accurate, but I think it was easier to produce or something. I don't remember. I think I had a reason why I chose that outline. There's some things that I think I could have done a little bit better on this one. Now that this is not one of the most recent things I've designed. The font just being black and on there is a little hard to read. I think I would have done something a bit more creative with the font, but at the same time, I think it is actually pretty okay. Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen along the spine. The back cover, this was supposed to be Netherfield Park. That's what that's supposed to be. And I believe I used photographs of the houses from the movies as my references. I think that actually doesn't look like Chatsworth, so I don't think it was. But anyways, I digress. So that was the cover, and then on the inside, I put design for my mom at December 2021. The back cover, there's a photo of me and her working, and there's a photo of Jane Austen. I just thought we could all be on there together. So that was pretty cute. The inside design, yeah, I used Atticus for this, and it probably could have been a little bit better, but I was kind of in a crunch to get this done for Christmas, and I had spent so much time designing the cover that I need to get it done. So it's not bad, but first of all, the paper is quite thin. I think that's just, this one's published on Blurb, I believe, and I don't think there was an option, but I can see, like, you can kind of see through the pages, so not my favorite. And a lot of the chapters in Pride and Prejudice in general are very short. So sometimes we get this where it's like just chapter 12 and then chapter 13. And then here we go, a couple pages later. So the font is a bit big. I did that on purpose because I thought my mom would prefer it, which I think she did. but the heading font is comically small by comparison. The font that they used here for the chapter headings is a little squished, and that was just the template in Atticus. But I do like the little flower detail. I think that's pretty much all there is to the comment on the interior. It's pretty straightforward. But yeah. Oh yeah, this is, I don't like how they did the table of contents in the Atticus generation. It's sort of, I don't know. Do we really need that? We don't really need that, I don't think. So that was basically it. So those are my books, my bookie wookies that I have made that I'm most proud of. I've actually done a lot more, but I'm excluding books that are things like under pen names. I wrote a fantasy romance series that's under a pen name that forget about that one, but it was pretty good. I actually think it was good. I didn't want to market it, so no one really bought it. But I think the design was good on that. What else have I done? Yeah, just like other little projects here and there. I've done some poetry books as well. Actually, I should have brought those. But anyway, this video is probably long enough. So I hope you enjoyed looking at these with me. It was really fun to relive them a little bit. Sometimes I just like to talk through the process of how I came up with stuff, and I hope that was interesting to you, maybe just to see the insights into how, I don't know, I went about the thought process of designing. Yeah, I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun. I did. And I'm going to go put these back on my shelf of pride. Have a lovely day. I'll talk to you guys later.